Hey everyone, Harry here to bring you up to speed with the second half and last half of Donald Trump's testimony in the New York fraud trial, which is now complete. All right, from one vantage point, it was less eventful than the morning, and that is there were fewer really standout admissions and moments that will figure in Engoron's final opinion that he'll write after the trial ends. It started, in fact, I think the parties over lunch both were reflecting on the real sort of fireworks on the morning and started out both more subdued. Engoron, mainly, with a couple exceptions that I'll get to, did nothing to really engage or challenge Trump. And Trump retreated to, for most of the day, these sort of monosyllabic responses, yes, no, etc., some of which were bad for his case, but he just went along. In general, Trump admitted today to a larger degree of involvement and knowledge of the financial statements than we might have expected going in. And he was extremely combative at points, maybe more than we would have thought going in. All right, let me move through the sort of highlights here. First, the substance, the things that, he said that really kind of are going to figure in the actual judgment that the court will make. First, an important exchange in the testimony. It was kind of Trump in this monosyllabic mode, but he agreed, as he had to, that these statements of his financial condition were intended to induce banks to give him money and lend him money, right there, and it actually says so right there in the financial statements. That's significant, if no surprise, because it really supports the notion of fraud. You're doing a false inflated statement, and that's in order to get the banks to give you money. Obvious enough, but an important admission all the same. Second point of substance that probably mattered was the discussion of the old post office in D.C. that people may know, but it's the otherwise known as the Trump Hotel. He had to, for a loan he took there, with Deutsche Bank, maintain a net worth of over $2.5 billion. And he said, basically dyspeptically, as the afternoon wore on, he did get more and more thin-skinned and explosive at points. He said, it was more than 2.5 billion, and therefore you have no case, he said to the AG. Those are, the old post office and especially these financial conditions are the things that mattered. At the end of the day, the AG tried to say to him, do you still think that these statements are accurate? Because he said they were at the time. And basically his lawyers were able to prevent him from having to answer that. So on substance, a few important points, but a largely subdued, maybe even tired Trump, more long stretches of monosyllabic responses and the like. Okay, next thing to mention, a big back and forth about the gag order. The gag order in the Engoron case has everything to do with the judge's longtime professional law clerk, Allison, I think, Greenfield, whom Trump has gone after in different ways. And they made it clear, the judge actually told the lawyers they couldn't be disparaging her, leave alone Trump. And they made it clear that they're going to go after this gag order and maybe even move for a mistrial based on it. And whether they were being hyper cautious or a little sarcastic, they got pre-clearance from the judge to say, can we bring this up without running afoul of your gag order? Can we mention and make our legal claim? And Engoron said, yes, go ahead, make your legal claim. So something we know to expect is a motion for mistrial, or at least a challenge to the gag order, which Trump is going to say is preventing him from making a sort of claim of bias overall. All right. I mentioned that Trump was largely subdued and the judge was largely subdued. Oh, one more point on the gag order that matters is this is about as much flash as Engoron showed during the afternoon, not the morning when he really, when they crossed sabers a few times. But when they talked about this challenge based on the law clerk, he said, did Engoron, he is 1,000% sure that they have no basis for challenging any of his communications with the law clerk. I think he's right. I can't see a court of appeals doing anything to set that aside or grant any of Trump's claims. Judges use law clerks all the time, and they can use them however they like. Nevertheless, the 1,000% showed a little bit Engoron getting his back up, and as close as it got in the afternoon session to his, being engaged in what in an appellate record might look like a sort of, personal way. All right, not Trump, though. Trump, after starting subdued and having long stretches of monosyllabic answers, he did, in fact, have some really nasty diatribes. He pretty much can't stop himself. He said this is all election interference. He told the lawyer for the AG that the lawyer should be ashamed of himself. He complained about the questioning, saying it was all a broken record. And there were moments where he was nasty in text, although not so much in tone, if you know what I mean. One more quick thing of substance, by the way, I should have added, is he said that and this is important, there had been previous suggestions that the reason these outlandish valuations might be accurate is because of the invaluable nature of the Trump brand and all it brought to things. He said in testimony that wasn't part of the valuation here. They didn't try to increase it by saying, well, but of course it's a Trump brand. They must have thought that through carefully, realized it's a legal loser. Okay, so that's the scope of the afternoon. Just a few nuggets, but they're of a piece. That tagging Trump with, knowledge, especially knowledge that he was inducing the banks to lend him money by these high valuations, and his being largely subdued, but not being able to resist a few diatribes before his testimony was completed, as it was by the end of the afternoon. Couple things to add now. First, as I mentioned of the morning, just like in a political campaign, there was a post-spin room. He came out and addressed the public for a couple minutes, calling this a sad day for America. His lawyer came out and, he was, this is ultra spin, political, saying it's the best witness he's seen in 33 years and he didn't back down, et cetera, et cetera. That's fanciful. Obviously, Trump did some things that are bad for him in the law and will be a part of the opinion coming up by Engoron, which I think will clobber Trump and the Trump organization. Of course, he may well have figured that's happening anyway, and now I'm just fighting a political fight, and his lawyer, Chris Kise, has agreed to do it with him. The AG, for her part, kind of hit back a little bit, said that he had mainly dodged questions and hadn't, had in some ways helped prove her case, but there was a little bit of a tit for tat. All right, so that's where things stand. Now, the AG actually called another witness before Trump was excused. They then excused him and broke for the day. But what we know is Ivanka is scheduled to testify on Wednesday, and that's it. Then the New York AG will rest its case, and we start with the Trump defense case, which they've suggested will end in early December. Now, to me, a big headline of the day that that escaped notice of a lot of people is that Trump's lawyer said they're going to bring in people from banks to echo Trump's refrain of no harm, no foul, and everything was good, and we got paid back, and it's fine. We'll see what actual officers of actual banks would be willing to say that, because it's crazy if you're in the business of trying to get accurate estimates from people you're lending money to. But they've suggested that. They made it seem pretty clear that Trump Jr. at least will be testifying again for their side. He already was called on the AG side, as was Trump today. And they said, as I mentioned, it'll go to early December. For my money, I think it'll go less than that. I think their case will be less rather than more, but we'll have to see. And, Wednesday is Ivanka, and after that we move to the Trump organization and defendant side of the case. So in a way, this is a trial that I think almost everyone understands is going against Trump in a major way, and his prospects will be on appeal, and they're not very bright there. But that he's decided to play for politics, and when you put it in that prism, today was the highlight. It's the highlight of all we're going to see, the actual confrontation of Trump against the AG, whom he savaged repeatedly, against this judge, who he also savaged, and just the specter of the former president of the United States in the chair, going from irritated monosyllables to long, rambling, unresponsive dissertations that nevertheless contain nuggets of guilt. So I've focused on the substance, as it's going to matter when Engoron makes his decision and writes his opinion. But there's also, in some ways, you might think the kind of larger political context here. And, Trump, without any doubt, let Trump be Trump. He was really truculent, often, totally insulting and contemptuous of his perceived enemies. How does that play with his base? How does it all work in the overall effort, legal effort, as it were, to basically win the election and take care of things from there? Which, of course, he's got a limited ability to do where it comes to a civil state case or a criminal state case, as in Fulton County. But that really seems to be the drama. And from that vantage point, it was the sort of climax of this particular play. So he was in some ways classic form. And I dare say that, he delighted some of his supporters. Hopefully, others saw that he was, unresponsive and a rogue, as he is. And then on the legal side of things, they're toast, and he made it harder for himself with this testimony today. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.